Hi everyone. I think most of us can assume that social media can sometimes be either positive or negative when it comes to certain things on the media. For me, when I go on social media, I normally look at the things that can bring me joy or keep me updated with my family who is not from the US. I normally use Instagram or Twitter to keep me updated on life or deals on the brands I like. On the other side of things, I never really thought about negative or positive sides on bigger topics in life. Some big things that we are still fighting for is racial equality, racism, rent control, wage pay, and etc. So I would like to discuss if social media is making a positive or negative effect on the fight against racism. Today, I will be discussing how most people say social media has a negative effect and why they think so, and also to see people for the positive side and how they might think social media has a positive effect. Another thing we will be seeing is how negative social media is and how it can impact people who are the ones reading your content. Lastly, I will be explaining the dangers of the TV shows we have watched and how harmful it can be for younger generations to look at it and see that it is okay. So, 64% of Americans say social media has a negative effect on the way things are going in the US today. According to Pew Research Center, US adults did a survey that was conducted on July 13th to 19th of this year. That 1 in 10 Americans say social media sites have mostly a positive effect on the way things are going, and 1/4 say these platforms have neither a positive or negative effect. Those who have stated that they have a negative view on social media say that the reason why is the misinformation on social media, the hate, and the harassment that is being seen on social media. The biggest concern that they have is that once everything is out on the internet, people will believe anything that they see on the internet. Roughly half of Democrats and independents say that social media has a largely negative effect on the way things are going on in the country. Compared to Republicans who say the same, these are big issues on why someone would think the internet has a negative impact on society. Younger adults say that there are positive impacts on the way things are going on in social media sites compared and are less likely to say that social media has a negative impact. I think this speaks a lot on how older generations and how younger generations are. Older generations see the misinformation that is providing, while newer generations are thinking differently. With this in mind, if younger teens are thinking there are positive ways in which social media helps, why should we have to worry about this? In the same article on Pew Research Center, those who have said there's a negative impact, 3 in 10 respondents mentioned that the spreading of misinformation and made up news, also with the examples of hate filled ideas, harassments, or incitement of violence. This can be somewhat true in what I have seen on social media plenty of times. This is something that I've seen going on throughout the pandemic. Examples of this are stereotypes of coronavirus on Asians. There are many instances online where people have been spreading non-factual ideas about POCs, with the ideas of what Trump was saying and targeting Asians that Asians were the result of coronavirus. This idea spread like rapid fire on the internet and on the news. I mean, any platform that you can see. There's one ignorant person who hears it and does not look at the facts. This can be harmful for a lot of people and targets one group. This can be something that I see that can be a new racial stereotype amongst Asians. With this going on at this time, I've seen many accounts fight back on these comments. There have been many pages made that stand for unity and express how they feel about certain situations. If so, many people are seeing these comments and younger generations might be believing everything they see on the internet. Then, if such a small yet knowledgeable feedback towards hate comments can help with this, then I think we should do it. In another article of Pew Research Center, 23% of users in the US say social media led them to change views on the Black Lives Matter movements. I'm not sure if this is for the better or for the worse, since a majority of the people who are on social media say there's a negative effect with the way things are going on in the country. Also, most of them have said that although social media highlights important issues, those issues might not be highlighted in the correct way, which distracts people from the issues that are most important. Someone mentioned recent events which is the Black Lives Matters movement. So 12% of adults say they have either positive or negative social media and what they incite. During this article, they mentioned some comments. Here's a few of the comments that were being made. So reading articles on the BLM movement has opened my eyes to the degree of systemic racism in this country and in the world. A woman who is 64 said that. And here's another one about BLM. I used to support BLM, but now I see them as violent domestic terrorists, not interested in addressing the real problems with the Black community. BLM is about a communist revolution, not about helping the Black community. A man who is 50 said that. And another comment. I never thought much about defunding or abolishing the police, but after seeing social media posts, I've researched and read up on the topics and now believe in fairly substantial cuts to police funding. A woman who's 31 said that. These three comments stood out to me the most. We can see how social media at times can be informative with the right sort of context, but without the right context, then people might be making judgments for themselves and possibly not understanding what or how the situation is. Addressing the situation, our goal in the future, before ever addressing anything to anyone, is we should fact check with ourselves only if we choose to correct someone on a certain stance, if you believe in it. And I think this is important because a lot of younger and older generations are on social media, and whatever you say out there can really impact what they are hearing. So, social media is meant to be used as a voice for individuals. Instagram is all about self-narration and daily biographies, and Facebook operates on itself. Social media promotes individualism, and this is how racism and hate speech is formed online. This also presses on how hate speech can be formed online since everything is self-narrated. In a research article on PLOS ONE, they detected that a majority of contributions have found that there's hateful and abusive content on social media. This was text containing general identity terms like lesbian, gay, Islam, feminist, and others that were part of a specific toxicity category. Thus shows that some query words used for the sampling data from Twitter were correlated with not only abusive tweets, but tweets that were sexist and racist. They also investigated a racial bias against African American English dialects versus Standard American English, which has a data set for toxic content, especially from Twitter. The results were that the African American English words were used much more frequently for abusive language. Also, in a journal called Social Behavior and Personality, they say that judging by how prejudiced something can be, this affects the use of stereotypes and makes them form social judgments. A certain individual with this idea, there's always an individual behind a screen. There's so much unknown in each comment, even when it is racist or hateful. With this, can't you see how harmful social media is and how it is harmful to others? This shows how toxic social media is with its heavily negative content. Since Twitter and Instagram now have a function to fact check if facts are right about certain issues, before we really post into our story, we should double check and see if the meaning of what you are retweeting or reposting is accurate. One voice can really change someone's opinion. You never know who might be reading it. So if you're still on the fence of social media and if it has a negative or positive impact on racism, did you ever wonder where stereotypes of every race really came from and how they are learned? What if I told you that many of these objects are in your everyday life and you're probably sitting next to one right now? Well, you guessed it. They're everywhere starting from when you were younger, from books, animations, films, and even advertisements. Some that might hit too close to home are in our favorite Walt Disney movies like Dumbo, Peter Pan, and the Aristocrats. Here are some examples. On WLWT, a television site that is associated with NBC, talks about it. In Dumbo, there's a character who is a crow that is named Jim Crow and his friends who are in a flock together, yet people mention them as a gang who are together. Also, when speaking, they would have jive-like speech patterns and jazzy, gospel songs that were sung in harmony. Another prime example is in Peter Pan, where there was a scene of the Indians. This was relative towards the Native Americans. They were meant to represent a fierce tribe, but from an audience point of view, they did not carry on as good of a stance in our point of view, even up to now. Their portrayal for them had many racial stereotypes. A song that was named What Made the Red Man Red, and in a different song, you see the Indians running around the stage saying Ooga Wooga Wigwam, not to mention their dancing and any sort of talking that can be relative towards an Indian was mocking towards the race. So lastly, in The Aristocrats, Shandong, who was buck-toothed and used chopsticks to play the piano. Not only is this racist and very stereotypical of an Asian person playing an instrument with chopsticks, but the way the cat was singing and emphasizing his words as if an Asian person sounds like this. Why is this such a big deal if Disney is meant to be for like movies and entertaining and carefree. This is exactly the reason why we should be understanding what we will be giving to children when they are alone watching movies. Although these are small parts of every movie, it is very stereotypical and can be demeaning. Children do not know what is right or wrong, which is the reason why stereotypes are learned. Again, I went over how many people thought social media made a negative impact on society and how it harms our values on things like BLM or things going on around the world. The effect of when seeing negative things on the internet and how that can affect who you are looking at and what it translates to. Finally, I talked about Disney movies and how corrupt they can be to younger generations. I hope my speech makes you understand the dangers of social media and how words and even a possible TV show can show the racism that lies beneath them. Next time you are on social media and see a small but hateful comment, I hope all of us can fact check them or do something that can bring more positivity in this world. Thank you.